Hello and welcome to Writing 225 for Fall 2020. My name is Steve Krause. I'm the professor who's going to be teaching this class. And I want to, with this short video, just walk you through a couple of the highlights of things that are important for on the syllabus, on the schedule, how the course is set up, and all that kind of stuff. You obviously should read it all yourself too. And if you have questions, be sure to ask in the discussion area below this. Okay, let's get started. Okay, when you log into Canvas and find our course, you should see this screen. Writing 225, CRN 14997, I guess. And let me start by just going over the syllabus page. My name is Steve Krause. My family pronounces it Krause instead of Kraus. It's just one of those things. You can call me Steve, you can call me Professor Krause, whatever you want. I'm not going to be in my office much at all this semester, if at all this semester. The best way to get a hold of me is via email. I assume that I won't be checking this voicemail. And I will be having office hours Tuesdays and Thursdays, 3:30 to 5:30 by appointment. And I'll be holding those via something like Zoom or Google Meetings. I'll let you know the details of that soon enough. I'll tell you a little bit about 225. This course has changed description in a couple of different ways over the years, and now the goal of this course is to be a bridge course between a first-year writing course, the sort of thing you took with 121, and the course that you would do in your major for a writing intensive course. So it's a 200 level course. It's supposed to be between those two spots. The reality is a lot of people take this course later on in their college career, and so I've noticed in the past is this an interesting mix between sophomores and also seniors, but that's okay. We'll make this work, and it'll be a good experience, I promise you. You don't need to worry about getting any textbooks. Everything will be available electronically. One thing I do encourage you to do, though, is even though it's all electronic and even though it's online, I'd really like you to try to do your best to print out the readings so you can take notes on them. It's very difficult to take notes on some of these readings if you don't get out a pen and paper and actually write on it. Or if you can't do that, create another word processing file and take notes on that. Or if you're like me and you have a device that allows you to take notes on a PDF on something like an iPad. I have a software called iAnnotate for that, and I'd really recommend that you do that. Most classes this fall at EMU are going to be online because of the pandemic, but our class is a little different in the sense that we were always scheduled to be online from the time this class was created, the time that you signed up for it. I do want to cover a couple of the basic things, though, about what are some of the implications of online participation and attendance that you need to be aware of before we get too far along. First issue is regarding online attendance. This is not a self-paced or self-study course. Writing is the sort of thing that you learn how to do with others. You share your writing with other people. You get feedback from peer review, that sort of thing. Plus, we're also going to be doing a lot of discussions of short readings, which also is the sort of thing that happens with other people. So you need to attend the class electronically and asynchronously during the course of the week. And what that generally means, and we'll get to this in more detail when we talk about the schedule, is work between Mondays and Wednesdays and Fridays. Now, this almost never happens because people do participate in the class. But if for some reason you forget to participate in the class for a couple of weeks, you could be in a situation where I count you as virtually absent, and that will mean that you won't be able to pass the course. More realistically, this is the part that I really want to focus, which are some of the responsibilities that you have to be aware of in the online format. First off, we're going to be using EMU Google account, your EMU Google account extensively, both for email and Google Docs, and potentially for things like PowerPoint presentations and stuff like that. The other thing that I really need to emphasize is you must check your EMU email account every single day, every single weekday during the course of the semester. I had a surprising number of students last year who I could not get a hold of for very important things, and this was during the pandemic, mind you, because they never checked their EMU email. Texting is not an option for this, and it's not a substitute for email. And reading your EMU email is just a part of basic adult responsibility. You need to do this every single day. If you're not used to using your EMU email, then you can set up that account so that it forwards to whatever email you normally use. And if you are a smartphone user, you can certainly set up your phone so that you can read your email and get notices that you've received email the same way that you read text messages and things like that. Okay. No circumstances will I accept as an excuse that a problem as a result of you not reading and responding to your email. So, for example, if I send you an email about something that you need to address right away and you don't do that because you don't read your email, then I will penalize you for that late work. Okay? This is kind of an obvious one, but believe it or not, it's something I feel like I need to point out. You need to have a computer in order to do this class. You can do some things with a smartphone or a tablet device or something like that, but really you need to have a basic computer to make this work. You need to be reasonably comfortable with the technology. I think most people are. If you have questions about it, let me know, but you're going to have to install some software and be able to navigate some things and stuff like that. And under no circumstances will I accept a lack of internet or computer access as an excuse for not getting something done. The two classic examples I've had in the past from teaching online are the example where someone has a computer that they're using that someone else in wherever they live owns. Maybe it's a significant other, maybe it's a sibling, and that person moves out and takes their computer with them. You're going to need to figure out access to a computer. I've also had a situation where this isn't going to happen this year because of the way things are going with the pandemic, but I've had a situation where people decided halfway through the semester that they were going to go on a 2-week trip and not have Wi-Fi access. And that's obviously not an acceptable situation. You can't just be gone for 2 weeks like that. Let me talk about participation next. That's worth 300 out of 1,000 points. And the way that that's going to work for the most part is through the online discussions, which replace the sort of face-to-face class experience that we might have in talking about a particular reading or something. So here's how this is going to work. The first thing you need to do is obviously read whatever it is that gets assigned. To start off the discussions, I usually offer a few introductory comments, and then you'll see when we look at the calendar what I mean by this. You will post your response about that reading in the discussions space. Now, you won't be able to see what other students post before you post, but once you post, then the other posts that other students have made will become visible. Then what you want to do is read through those discussions and engage in a discussion. And so as I describe here, you want to write things that are conversational, maybe about 150 words, where you raise certain questions or make comments or have reactions and things like that to the reading. These don't have to be like mini reports. They don't have to be particularly well written, but you should probably do some basic things like make sure that they're spelled right and use complete sentences and that kind of thing. The most important part is to do this in a timely fashion, okay? So you have to have your initial post either on Monday, and that discussion wraps up on Wednesday, or on Wednesday and that discussion wraps up on Friday. The reason I make such an emphasis on the beginning part of the discussion rather than when the discussion ends is because I want you to focus on when you need to start the discussion as opposed to when it wraps up, so we can actually have a discussion. The best analogy I can give is that let's say we were meeting face-to-face, and we spent the first 45 minutes out of a 70-minute class just sitting there, just sitting silently. And then all of a sudden we start talking. Well, everybody has a question and point, things like that. Well, that's silly, right? So if everybody waited until Wednesday or Friday to have the discussion, that's kind of what it's like. It's kind of like waiting until the class is almost over. So again, think in terms of beginning on Monday, ending on Wednesday, beginning on Wednesday, ending on Friday. I think you'll get a better idea about how this will go once we get going, and I'll give you some initial feedback early in the semester. But here's how I grade this. It's a letter grade system, A, B, C, D, F, and I'll give a letter grade for each required discussion during the class. And if your initial post is on time and you respond to more than one of your classmates on at least 2 different days, which means you can respond to actually 2 classmates on Tuesday, that's fine, or Tuesday and Wednesday, that kind of thing, then you get an A. If your initial post is late, but you respond to more than one of your classmates, or it's on time and you only respond to one of your classmates' posts on a different day, then your initial post is, then you'll get a B. If your initial post is late, but you respond to only one of your classmates, or your initial post is on time, then you get a C. If your initial post is late, you get a D, and if you don't respond at all, you get an F. Okay. Again, this will make sense once we get into it. We'll also be in peer review this term. You've probably taken other writing classes in which this is the case. And the key thing about participating in peer review activities is also to do in a timely fashion. You need to be able to have your draft ready for others to respond to, and you need to be able to provide good feedback to your classmates in a timely fashion as well. We'll also be having at least 2 individual conferences this semester to talk about projects and possibly to talk about revisions. I'll set up a schedule for when we'll meet. These meetings will be online, of course, about 15 to 20 minutes. We'll either use Google Meetings or we'll use Zoom. Kind of depends. And really, if that technology isn't cooperating, we can always use the phone and things like that too. These meetings are required, so if you miss one of these meetings, it's like missing a grade or missing a class. And I grade online discussion and peer review basically by 2 halves. So the first half of the semester, roughly speaking, is 150 points. Second half, 150 points. Most of the grade will be determined by me averaging out the letter grade that you received and converting that into points. But I will adjust that grade based on your participation in peer review and the individual conferences. Now, as you might expect, it is a writing class, so the bulk of the grade, 700 points, is based on the 3 major writing projects of the semester. And let me just sort of tell you where my thinking is on this. The class is called Writing in the Disciplines, and what that's supposed to mean is, how do people, academics and professionals in your particular field of study write? What do they think of writing? What are some of the conventions of writing? What are some of the genres of writing that people do in this field? So the first assignment asks you to explore that question. What defines writing in your discipline? What are the sort of boundaries of it? What makes the kind of writing that people do, say, in English, different from the kind of writing that people do, say, in public health? Okay. And this comes from a bunch of different viewpoints because there are several different majors in this class. The second assignment is a little bit more focused, and it's the diving deeper assignment, and it asks you to look at some specific journals in your field and some frequently cited articles from those journals in your field to make some sort of arguments about what the key discussions are. So this is the assignment that will require the most research. And then the third assignment is it's called the WorkNet project, what asks you to go even more deeper into one particular article through a series of exercises and explorations where you try to figure out the network that article exists in relative to other scholarship in the field. Needless to say, we'll go into a lot more details about each of these individual assignments. For each of these projects, you're going to use Google Docs from the point of drafting, peer review, handing it in, and revision. I'll explain more about how to do that in a little bit later in the class. But if you haven't been using Google Docs yet, you're going to learn a lot more about Google Docs this semester. I generally don't accept late projects. The one exception to that rule is if you tell me about something before. If you tell me something is going to be late before it is due, I will usually give you an opportunity to hand it in late. There's opportunities for revision. And we'll talk more about the details of that by the end of the semester. But basically, you always have a chance to revise these major projects if you want to get a better grade in the class. The last thing I want to talk about here in the grading part is in order to pass the course, you must complete all of the major writing projects regardless of your grades for any of the other components of the course and regardless of your grade with missing components. In other words, if you decide for whatever reason to just not do the last assignment, you got an A in the first assignment, an A in the second assignment, and you figure that you can get a C minus if you blow off the last assignment, no, you're going to fail the class. You got to complete all the major assignments. Grading scale is pretty straightforward. I'll come back to this point about a few thoughts of the current moment in just a second. Don't plagiarize. That's what this is about. And if you plagiarize, you could fail the class. And there's a bunch of different campus resources here that I just want to make links to. Resources for academic issues, for psychological issues, social issues, for issues having to do with disability, for Title IX, sexual harassment issues, the whole 9 yards. There's all kinds of different stuff on campus. You are certainly not on your own all the time, and if you need help with any of these things, I will do my best to point you to the best resources. I talk a little bit here about the thoughts on our current moment, and you should read that over as well. Let's be clear, this is a very weird time historically. I'm 54 years old, and I can't think of anything in my lifetime that has been nearly as dramatic as what we've experienced during the pandemic. And I was talking to my father about this, who's pushing 80, and he feels the same way. This is really a historic, unusual time. And so we're doing a lot of things, we're coping with a lot of different things, right? And I just want to say two things about that beyond what I already wrote there. The first thing is that I don't want to dwell on that necessarily in our class, but we have to acknowledge that it's part of what maybe the class is trying to escape from in terms of being busy with some other kind of work. And it's also something that may come into our class at some point, whether we want it to or not. And I also want to acknowledge that we're all human beings behind these screens, and we all need to help each other and support each other as best we can. We'll get through it together, but we also have to acknowledge that, it is something to get through. So that's really all I wanted to say about that. Just to sort of acknowledge that it's out there and to offer the fact that I will do what I can to help us all through it. So let me take a second to show you a little bit about how the course is set up on Canvas, where the schedule is and the things that you're going to want to look for to navigate the course for the rest of the semester. Back at the home page now, and you'll notice that the way I have this class set up, there's the syllabus, there's the grades, there's this, which connects you to other people in the class, Zoom, which we will use some, and library guides, and that's it. There's no discussion button over here. I don't use modules, and I would ignore this column over to do. You want to pay attention to this main page, the one with the roadmap, road sign on it, because this is indeed the map, if you will, to the entire semester. Everything that you need to do is on this page, and when you need to do it is also on this page. So here we are, August 31st. You began by clicking on this one. The other required reading and discussion, this is something I expect everyone to post and comment on, is the introduce yourself to me and your peers. And when you click on that, you'll notice, now I actually have posted an introduction of myself here as one of the comments, but you can't see it yet because you have to post first before you can participate in this discussion, and you'll see how to do that once it's actually opened up for the discussion period of the class. And so you'll post your discussion there, then you'll see what other people have to say. That's due by the end of the day on August 31st. That is to say, if you want to get a name in this discussion, you will post by that day. Okay. The calendar continues this way, and then what we start seeing on September 2nd, for example, is a link to this, which is the first big assignment, the Discourse Community Project. And I won't go through this now, but you should read through all that. And then we'll also have a discussion about this project on this page here, okay? And that's how the course continues. So I expect everyone to do both of these things, or to after you watch this, to introduce yourself here, and to read over the assignment and watch this video here. And then also you will discuss this assignment below this video when in the discussion area. Again, it's the same sort of thing where you have to write a post, and then you'll see what other people have written. Just giving you an idea of like how the whole class goes on. It's all pretty well sketched out for the semester. There are some things that may change, but probably will stay like this. Keep in mind that we'll be doing conferences around in here. You'll need to register for a conference on September 14th or so. By the 15th, and I'll start meeting with people online probably around the 16th. We'll start peer review for the first assignment on the 23rd and finish on the 28th, and it will be due as in handed in the revised version of it on October 5th. We continue into the next assignment, peer review, etc., etc. That will be due November 2nd. We continue on into the next assignment, Thanksgiving break, and the last assignment is due on December 7th. And there's no final in the class, but everything will need to be done. The last day of classes is December 9th, and everything will need to be done by December 15th. And you might notice I tend to, with classes I teach, front load things, so there's a lot more stuff that happens in the beginning of the semester than in the end of the semester. Makes things a little bit easier. And really, the only thing that you might have to turn in on December 15th is a revision. So really, almost December 9th, you can think of as being when we're going to wrap up. Okay, a lot of information. Hope it was useful. I promise you this is the longest video I will record and make you watch this semester. But if you have questions about anything I covered or anything else about the class, that's what the discussion forum is right below here. Ask questions about the syllabus in the class. And don't forget to introduce yourself, share a picture, share a video, tell us a little bit about yourself. That's what would require discussion. And once you share something about yourself, you'll be able to see other people's posts and you can comment on their posts as well. Okay? All right, let's get to it.